Monday night. And I'm excited about this one, ladies and gentlemen. I know everybody's down because football on Monday nights is no longer. I know everybody's still down because it's January. It's still cold and there's snow on the ground and it's still dark early. But I promise you, we're going to warm things up and we're going to certainly lighten the mood and some and talk with a man that they say is V to the H. He's a YouTube sensation. He's a wrestling star that you've seen up and down the Northeast and the Mid Atlantic.
Mhm.
And he's going to be returning to the ring here in a couple of different places. He's also going to talk about another place that we do a lot of coverage where I first got to know him here on Sportswire Radio, where unfortunately he came up a little bit short and got attacked by a man who was the first guest in 2024 on Sportswire Radio, not once but twice in DBW. He's going to talk about all that. He's going to even talk about some of his music selections. I'm going to agree, disagree with some of that. He's going to talk about his goals, and he's going to especially talk about somebody he's wrestling for an important cause who's a mauler that rocks hard. All of that here and some we'll get into. It is absolutely an honor to have this man on. He is definitely somebody who finally is going to come on Sports by Radio, who has probably more hair than me, looks a lot better than me, and could probably know a little bit more about the heavy metal encyclopedia than I do. But enough about all of that. Many of his peers and colleagues in the world of wrestling in places like Prize, Amplify, whoever else have gotten that introduction. So now it's time to give him that introduction that everybody else has gotten, and let's get this show on the road. So with that, without further ado, here on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show. He's V to the H. He's a YouTube sensation, pro wrestling star. He's simply put, Hanson. My friend, how are you?
I'm great, and that was absolutely beautiful as always. Thank you for having me. Long time listener, first time interviewer.
Okay, the check's in the mail. Okay, we can stop the interview now. Thank you for the bouquets. It's time. The show's over. That's it. It was a great show. Obviously, I'm really looking forward to this one because when you reached out a couple of weeks ago, it was almost as if like I didn't know who you were. And I'm like, no, of course I know who you are. I've seen you quite a bit in DBW, and I've seen you, and obviously somebody who finally comes on Sportswire that might actually have longer hair than me, might actually know more about the heavy metal encyclopedia than I do. But obviously, enough about all that. It is absolutely an honor to get a chance to speak with you. I mean, there's a lot to talk about. This current event, there's some recent events. I mean, I don't even know where to start, but I guess I will start in the current up front coming up here, February the 24th. For those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters, here V to the H, Mr. Van Hanson, not related to Von Hansen, not related to Van Halen. I'm going to give you the opportunity to kind of respond a little bit because there's a guy that's come on Sportswire Radio multiple times here. Man, you're going to see in that ring coming up for Fight for a Cure, Enterprise, and Amplified Wrestling. They call him a mauler who rocks hard. His name is Brandon Castelli, and he had a few things to say about you, basically saying that it's no longer your promotion. It's going to be his and we. And I guess now I'm going to give you the opportunity right off the bat here for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, where, again, all wrestling matters, and those that will be there on February the 24th, your response to what the mauler, Brandon Castelli, had to say.
So I've had the pleasure of sharing the ring with Brandon Castelli once in the DBW Rumble. And I will say this to what he said about it's his promotion now. I'm about to drop a bombshell that I have never said anywhere else. but I own Amplified Wrestling. I created Amplified Wrestling. So when you step into my promotion, it is my promotion. I booked this match because you came after my mentor Dokken, and unfortunately he's retired. So now you've got me.
Wait. Time. I know we'll say hello to people in a second, but you want to talk about mic drops on Sportswire Radio? You want to talk about bombshells? I mean, I thought a few weeks ago when I basically dropped a bomb on half of British wrestling that I thought that was a bomb. Van Hanson, Mr. V to the H, the YouTube phenom that you are. You mean to tell us that on February 24th, Brandon Castelli is literally going into the company that you own? I mean, this is like, I don't know if I've ever heard one like this before.
Yeah, no. We signed him and he immediately went after Dokken and he said he was going to maul him and do all these horrible things to him. And after Dokken retired, I was like, okay, you know what? I'll give Castelli this match. I will let him debut on my show. I will let him go against me in a very big first advertised match. If you notice that too, it was the first match advertised for Fight for a Cure.
I did see that. Yes. And I shared the video. I actually shared Brandon's video. And I think I mentioned you in it. Yeah. I mean, I'm blown away by this. You know, I mean, we certainly get a lot of bombshells on Sportswire, but so I guess I have to ask in a way, I will get to people, but I mean, I would suppose then that Mr. Castelli has no idea what he's in for then coming up on February the 24th. Is that a fair statement for me, sir?
That is a fair statement. That yes.
Wow. I mean, Brandon Castelli, a man that certainly has had an interesting last few months. And, you know, Brandon Castelli, a man that has really struggled quite a bit in DBW and a man that hasn't been able to hit the big one here, more or less. And I think what it tells me is that Brandon's going to be in a lot of trouble here because he may call himself a mauler who rocks hard, but you're not going to certainly want to lose in a place that you created, in a place that you own. I mean, and on top of it, for a good cause.
And for a good cause on top of it. And I'll say this too. I saw recently that the Don's March had been reformed. That was an Enterprise signing right there. Yeah. And I will say this. I know Castelli has ties with the Don's March. If you want to bring the Don's March out to play, I got Murder City.
Ooh, the Murder City Hit Squad. Oh, you know, and I might have an announcement for you coming up actually before the 24th of February related to that. But I mean, this completely changes everything. So I guess it's fair to say then that you had something that you kind of had under your sleeve here for a number of weeks while Castelli was going all over the place on social media, basically saying that it's about him and and you're going to basically be put to pasture. It sounds to me as if you knew you had something real big up your sleeve, more or less.
Mm-hmm. That's why I've waited until now to respond, really, because I wanted Castelli to think, oh man, Van's not going to respond. I stayed quiet. I didn't say anything to Amplified. I didn't say anything to Enterprise on the pages from myself. And I thought, you know what? The perfect time, because I saw him on Sportswire running his mouth about me. I think it's only fair.
You know what? He's been here a couple of times. Yeah, actually, you know, I can't deny that. You've been listening and you did mention it, and Brandon's been here twice. Yeah, I can't, not say that that's not true.
And that's one thing I want Brandon to know is that as a promoter, we watch, we listen to everything you do. We see everything you do. So you think you could slip one past me? Man, come on.
Wow. You know, ladies and gentlemen, let's recap here. First, I want to ask you a couple of questions about the show.
Okay.
But obviously, for those that just tuned into Sportswire Radio, 24th, Brandon Castelli versus Van Hanson. Not only is it going to be Fight for a Cure, Enterprise, and Amplified Wrestling, it's also now officially been announced here on Sportswire Radio that Van Hanson is the owner and operator of Amplified Wrestling. And if that wasn't enough, I mean, Van Hanson, I'm sure, is going to have a lot to share about other things here in the future about that show. And by the way, he mentioned Dokken. Well, by the way, Van Hanson was not only a tag team champion with Dokken, they were the longest running tag team champions in that company's history. So that shows you here Van Hanson knows what he's doing here in this environment. This is an environment where he's been extremely successful here in the past. And you also brought up the Murder City Hit Squad, and I'm sure we'll come back to that. But let me ask you a question on the event specifically. You don't have to tell me matches that won't be revealed. Don't things like that. Keep that for when we'll get more information. But talk to me about why this event in February the 24th and what exactly are we fighting for when it comes to this particular crew? I'd be curious for the audience that's hearing this for the first time.
So we always like to run like Special Olympic shows at this school, and we had the opportunity to run another one. And kid Mike, whose daughter does cheerleading, has like her friend, she has Ewing sarcoma for the second time, and we thought, instead of doing the Special Olympics again, because we've done it 4 or 5 times, why don't we try to do something, for his daughter's friend, their parents, something like that, something that definitely like, as like kid Mike's very close with the family of that girl. So we thought it would just be the best to round up as many wrestlers as we could. We overbooked the show by a mile.
Oh, wow.
So we had to unfortunately like trim it down.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good.
We thought it would be great because like the thing about doing charity shows has always been great that like we can all gather together, raise money, and do it the best way we know how. And to me, that's just I don't know. I always love giving back in the wrestling business. It's
absolutely. I just, in fact, we have a company that we work with in the UK. We dedicated a month to Cutlery Championship Wrestling. Their last show was actually helping out a young girl who's been impacted by cancer, and they raised like over £1,000, which probably be like about $1,500 here US. And I mean, I've been doing this almost 5 years, and I can tell you, countless times we've gone on here and done something, to try to, raise awareness or something. So I'm a big believer, and certainly doing anything we can to help those in the community that, certainly can, use that help. And I want to give a quick shout out before I come back to you. I actually had the honor to have on about a couple of weeks ago the head coach of the United States women's amputee soccer team, Paige Palazzolo. So I know all about helping out in the community. So this is really a wonderful cause that, I'd love to hear more about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and I just think like as a wrestler doing these shows and doing it like with what we know how to do, like what we love to do, it puts more like love into the outcome, but also like whenever you get a chance to like for $15 to watch people beat the crap out of each other for charity, it's great. Like,
hey, listen, this is a great deal because I just went out and I was telling you I was in New York City just before Manhattan. I went out and had 2 slices of pizza and a soda, and I think I spent almost $15. So I mean, I can tell you, and I just saw for Ford versus Ferrari, and I just saw Aquaman 2, and I saw Beekeeper last weekend. I spent on my movie ticket alone almost $25. This is only $15, and you're going to see yourself and Brandon Castelli and a slew of wrestling stars. That'll be a far better deal, and you get far more than your money's worth than what I just spent, whether going out to eat or going out to the movies.
Yeah, that's and not only like that, like you mentioned, other people are going to be on the show. We have Mr. Judgment on the show.
Oh, I know Mr. Judgment very well. I happen to know that man. Interestingly enough, you said very, very well, Mr. Judgment.
We have Mr. Judgment. We have a lot of surprise debuts because we're doing the Bears Rumble, which was named after her cheerleading team, actually.
Oh wow, what a small world.
And I can tell you a lot of the guys that are doing this show that, like, as you can see on the poster, we have Sean Phoenix, we have Riot City's Most Wanted, Ron Holiday, and Eric Ekton. I'm trying to remember who else would be like hey, look at that.
I actually called something up. I always had something up my sleeve, and thanks to my crack staff, my best staff around, that's why I've survived as long as I have. And you can actually see the poster right there of you and Castelli. I mean, that's how about that on Sportswire? You don't get that anywhere else, Van Hanson, B to the H.
No, that took me off guard.
That's pretty cool. I mean, thanks to my crack staff for doing that. That was, I thought, pretty cool to put that up because now you can actually see a little bit more there. Brandon and Van. I mean, I think he might be a little better looking than Brandon in this photo, though.
Well, I used a photo enhancer on my face, so.
Oh, you know what? I wasn't going to say anything about that, but certainly I actually enlarged the photo because I think when you gave me the photo, I actually made it a little larger for, well, I was the crack staff, but yeah, I thought that would be kind of a cool way to kind of, open the show and yeah, V and V to the H. And, I'm really excited about the card and for a great cause. And I know if you want to go find out more information on Facebook, you can actually go to Amplified Wrestling or go to Van Hanson's Facebook page and go out and find out more information. We'll put back your links to support you in a number of different ways. And let me say hello to some people while people digest this pretty cool photo. And by the way, that's what we're doing here on Sportswire. I want to say hello to my buddy D'Angelo Flame out there from Resurrection Wrestling, who's coming back on February the 18th. D'Angelo is our reigning defending internet champion. He is a house of fire. He's got more energy than a Red Bull drink, and he says hello. And speaking of somebody that I didn't realize he's actually a member of our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. He closed out our first class. Jackson Law. It says Captain Law here, but I know him now in XCW as Jackson Law. And he says, do you still come out with Mayhem as your manager?
Wow. Okay. I would love to. I've reached out to Mayhem before to come back, and I would just say Mayhem will come back when Mayhem's ready to come back.
I didn't know you knew Mr. Law. I didn't know you guys went back at all. I didn't realize that. What a small world. There you go. What a world. Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Law, for tuning in. I always love Mr. Law, and he'll be, I'm sure, with us next Tuesday when Festus Davis, our senior official at XCW, is here in your chair at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. A man I'm going to get to in a little while. I'm going to get to him in a little while. I'm going to get to him. I'm going to hold off that thought on him first. We're going to say, in the words of Lee Corso for those college football fans, not so fast, my friend, not so fast. We're going to come back. We're going to come back to you for sure. Thank you for the kind words. I'm not quite sure it's true. You certainly have your buddy DVG who does your, announcements for, Metal Mondays, and I'm sure would certainly take the cake on that. But thank you for the kind words, whoever you might be, whoever you may are, to quote there you go. Yep. How you doing there, my friend? And yes, I got to follow you on SoundCloud because I'm on SoundCloud. And a very, very good friend who's up. I don't know why he's up right now, Mr. Ace Reed of the Wired Up podcast. I don't know if he should be somewhere. But he has a great podcast. He's on YouTube at BWU Wrestling. He just interviewed Jack Delta. And by the way, did a better job when I interviewed Jack Delta. And Ace Reed, if he wants to take over the chair on Sportswire, I'm sure a lot more people would be happy about that because Ace is doing a great job. He's doing a better job than me. And he just passed over 800 subscribers on YouTube. And he's inching his way up to surpass Van Hanson. And he's got a Patreon page. So Ace, great job here. Thank you for that. Also here, Mr. Law, before I come back here, says, I know Riot City's manager pretty well. Oh, well, there you go. There you go. I feel like now when I bring Law back on in a couple of months, I'll have to ask him about you. I mean, that's a small world there. I have a good question, though, before I come back to this match, and I'm going to keep the photo up for a few more minutes, if you don't mind. I do want to get to a good question here. And what does Van believe the wrestling business is?
Oh, no. Okay. So it's a pretty messed up answer.
Okay.
So why?
Want me to bring it back up for you?
Why did you ask me that? Okay, so a few years ago, I was Anton, Nathan, and I were hanging out with Riot City, Sickened.
Okay.
And somebody I don't know who was talking about it. It was probably me. Was talking about pubic hair.
Oh,
and
interesting.
Yeah, interesting, right? So I said, yeah, man, that's what the wrestling business is built upon right there. So there's...
Well, I'm sure that there's certainly some ladies out there that would definitely enjoy that. We have a listener that we actually know specially that would probably really, really enjoy that. Here, her name may or may not be Jules, but we'll certainly leave that to a different time. But certainly, no, we're not talking about my mutton chops, but we'll try to move on because obviously, yes. I say thank you, Mr. Nathan, and certainly you are no Nathan's hot dog, but certainly that was probably one of the more interesting questions on sports. Where kind of reminded me what I read today about David Lee Roth knocking Sammy Hagar about his affinity for aliens. So certainly let's move away from that. But, speaking of somebody that I'm sure I'm going to be talking a lot about here over the next hour or so, who's going to save you from further embarrassment and humiliation on sports. I'm only kidding. Kidding. A man that very well could be on this platform here in your chair in a couple of weeks, but I'll save those details in a little while. And who's your dream match, champ?
Oh, that's a tough question.
You can answer this one a little bit easier, right? You can, this will be a little easier for you, right?
Yeah. So what I always say, like, I have a piece of paper with people who I've always wanted to wrestle, and most of those names are crossed off. So it's hard because I always say like my dream match is my next match because I don't know when my last one will be.
It's a good point. You know what? I live by that motto. People ask me all the time, well, what do you think in a year from now? What are you thinking? Blah, blah, blah. I'm always like, well, I'm here right now. That's the only thing I'm focused on. I've always lived by that motto. That's always been my life motto.
But if I had to pick, probably X-Pac.
Well, you know what? I think somebody asked him on Twitter, I think about a couple of weeks ago, about him being in the Royal Rumble. And, he stayed ready. And we really haven't seen him in a WWE. I know he was in GCW last year. But, he's somebody that, I think a lot of people might want to see, at least in the Rumble. That's a good one. I hadn't thought about him as somebody that would be a dream match. I would have automatically thought you would have said Judgment.
We'll get there.
I'm sure of that. But okay, that's a good one. Anybody else in the realms of, let's say, outside of X-Pac, but more, let's say, within the realms of certain companies that we might cover on Sportswire? Anybody else that comes to mind?
Well, I've always wanted to work Anton Nathan. I never had a match with him. I always tagged with him. That would be fun. I mean, I guess Kid Mike too, but like we're best friends, so I don't see how well.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening with the Hit Squad. That doesn't make any sense.
Other than that, well, again, I would say Dokken, but he's retired.
To be continued. How about that? To be continued.
To be continued.
I always say to be continued. That's a great point. Want to say hello to Jules out there. How you doing? Yes, how you doing to you as well. Also, I guess can I bring this comment up from Mr. Nathan? Will you?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you know what I'm about to bring up here. Okay, who Holbers?
Okay, so when I was a teenager, I had a dream that Rhino showed up to my house and he put a Rey Mysterio mask on, and he said, "Yeah." He said, "My name is Holb now," and then he like gored me through the door. And then he grew wings and flew away.
Wow.
And so that became like an ongoing joke. And if you look in the Amplified Wrestling logo, that's actually Rhino and Rey Mysterio.
Oh, wow. You know what? I'm actually, unfortunately, I can't necessarily pull it up on the screen here for a number of different reasons because I don't have the photo in front of me, but we have this and I'm actually looking at the photo now. Yeah, you know what? I'm looking at the background of it. You know what? Yeah. I could see a little bit of that resemblance. Yep. I really see a little bit of that resemblance. Yeah.
So I told Anton that when I first met him, and I even posted the dream to Twitter, and Rhino blocked me. Okay.
Wow.
and then we put it on Wikipedia where it's been for like 5 years now. That's one of his ring names.
Oh, wow. And he got that mad, huh? Wow. You got him that mad. Wow. Okay. For whatever reason, now I could see this story, but for whatever reason, there was a movie. I don't know if anybody's seen it. It's called Point Break. It's with actually Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves. And for whatever reason, I could see Rhino with those masks they had to rob the banks. But the Rey Mysterio one, I would never have thought of. But you know what? I mean, all right. Well, I certainly knew this would be a lively discussion. And to be fair, I did say it was going to be lively in my video introduction of you on Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, I mean, in 23 minutes, you've definitely delivered. Sometimes I've done a few of these on Sportswire in the last week, and I don't want to say names. There were some that were like, yeah, okay. This one, I got a feeling that might be more feeling like a Howard Stern show than Sportswire. This could be interesting tonight. This could be an interesting one here. Yeah, somebody was happy about Point Break. Yes, thank you, Jules. Yes, Point Break was a very good movie. VH1 used to run them when they used to have the old It was Rock Show. They would play Rock Show, and sometimes they would play Point Break. Before that was when you'll probably not even know this, but Scott Ian actually used to host a show on VH1. Who was the guitarist for Anthrax?
Anthrax,
and he used to host a show for a brief period when kind of Anthrax and heavy metal was really let's just say inundated by rap metal and post grunge, and he hosted a show, and sometimes they would play like rock movies right after this thing called Rock Show, and he was the host of that, so automatically. But let me get to from Mr. Kid Mike, because he wants to know about Brent the Maniac. So tell us about Brent the Maniac here.
So in 2010, I started backyard wrestling, and I didn't have the name Brent the Maniac yet. That came like a year later. My first wrestling name was actually the Paper Cutter.
Oh, wow. I'm a paper carrier, so what a small world. I deliver newspapers still. So you're a paper cutter. I'm a paper carrier. I probably cut my hand from delivering papers over the past 17 years. I'm sure I've cut it many times. I mean, if I put my finger up here, you might still have a few cuts still from cutting papers. Who knows?
But so I backyarded as Brent the Maniac until 2016.
Okay.
And then I changed my name to Brent Sabbath for the last 2 years of backyard, and then I joined Indy. So
Brent Sabbath, that's a good one. Certainly reminds me almost of I think it's Zach Sabbath. I think Zach Wild has a Black Sabbath. Yeah, I noticed it. I did, and I'm going to ask you about Black Sabbath later because I do have a slight disagreement with you on. But great stuff there. And actually, if you want to follow Van Hanson, because he's V to the H, he's definitely a lot more entertaining than I am. A lot more better looking than me. No. Instagram Van.Hanson with the 0. YouTube Van.Hanson, Facebook Van Hanson, Twitch Van_Hanson, also Twitter it's Van Hanson, not related to Hanson, by the way. He's not related to the Hanson brothers. Just want to also let you know there's a couple of different Hanson brothers. The pop group, there was the movie, but he's not related to any of them. But if you want to buy his merchandise to support this man, it's tpublic.com/user_Van_Hanson. Definitely support this man. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters here on Sportzwire Radio. And if you want to check us out on YouTube, you're here for the first time, give us a sub at YouTube at Sportzwire Radio 6579 /streams, and also check us out on our internet radio station below. So if you have a podcast out there, any requests you'd like, music, live DJs, I do that 24 hours a day. I put together all the music. I put together all the shows. We do it free of charge on behalf of the community, so we give people a chance to be heard on the World Wide Web. So check us out there. Let me know anything you want to hear, and that's our YouTube page. So give us a sub, that's for sure. For whatever reason, you're getting more requests. I was going to ask you about February 24th, but let's get to more requests because you've already got people on the request line. Usually on Sportswire, I have to kind of think about ways to make this one interesting. I'm going to have no problem with that tonight. There's going to be no problems at all with this being interesting. I can already tell you right off the bat. So the guys want to know about Mr. Huber beef. So talk to me about Mr. Huber beef.
So this guy started commenting on a few of my YouTube videos a few months ago, and he's been using the name Mr. Huber. And he posts like really dumb like troll comments. And he uses what I did was I took his profile picture and like back searched it on Google Images.
Oh wow.
He uses a picture of the rapper Common.
Oh, I did. That's why I saw your video the other day. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
And then so one time Anton replied to one of his comments on my videos, and then Mr. Huber went over to Anton's channel and started saying stuff. And so like Mr. Huber is like right now my biggest fan. And I made a parody of Stan by Eminem.
I remember the Stan. Yeah, I remember the video. Yep.
And Mr. Huber commented that he loved it. So
oh wow.
But now he's back to his hate because he just commented on my one video today I did about Deicide and said I prefer Nickelback. So there's that.
Well, I mean, listen, I will say one thing on that before I come back. If it means anything to you, not to say he's the most metal, but Jerry Cantrell toured with Nickelback about 20 years ago, a little more than that now, and he was a big Nickelback fan. Now, for those that may not know this, Jerry Cantrell is the founding member and guitarist of a band called Alice in Chains, and Alice in Chains, pretty good band, whether you're a metal fan, a rock fan, whatever else in between, and he happened to like Nickelback. So at the end of the day, and also I would also remind people, there was some heavy metal guitarist who was kind of in a way the heir apparent to Eddie Van Halen named Dimebag Darrell, and he actually played on a Nickelback song called "Side of a Bullet." So I mean, there are some people out there that happen to like Nickelback. Now it's not my necessarily cup of tea, but you know what? There are people out there, and if you're a wrestling fan, you might remember that Nickelback actually did the intro to Raw for several years. So there's a lot of interesting influences there, interesting things that tie into wrestling. So Deicide, I can't say I'm the biggest Deicide fan. I can't say I'm the biggest Nickelback fan, but I could certainly see why you might have preferred Nickelback over Deicide. So there you have it. I will say play the Huber song. I don't know if we can play that here on the air. I'm assuming copyrights, but
yeah, YouTube got on my case for using the Stan song, so you would get taken down immediately.
Yeah, I mean that's why I've got enough things on my back. Jules says she's a Nickelback fan. Yeah, look, I'm not a big Nickelback fan. I appreciate that they run, but look, there's certainly somebody for everybody. But again, Jerry Cantrell endorsed Nickelback, and Jerry Cantrell, definitely a pretty good guitarist. Definitely, again, I wouldn't say the most metal, but Alice in Chains was the most metal of the grunge bands. But enough about that for now. Want to say hello to my buddy Skulls, who will be in our Hall of Fame coming up in the month of March. He just got home for training. I hear from a birdie that he's going to be, wrestling some guy that's in some company that might be related to Grimm's Toy Shop. But we'll leave that at that for another time. Ooh. But if I could, it was a lot of things I could get to, but I'll probably be thrown off the air. People want to throw me off the air to begin with. Maybe you'll take over because you have a bigger following on YouTube. But I did want to come back here onto the show, if I could, for a few minutes, February 24th, because you mentioned the Dawn's March. And if I could, I know that they're going to be in the ring against Violent Love, and I happen to know the Dawn's March personally. And I've definitely had on the Dawn's March on more than one occasion. One of those people, a man you've wrestled before, and the other one that I just had on right before Christmas. So certainly give us what we're going to expect between those individuals, between Violent Love and the Dawn's March.
I think that's going to be a really good match. I've had, the pleasure of working with Violent Love. Unfortunately, they took the tag titles off of me, but the Violent Love definitely they were trained by the Sons of Mifflin County from HWF. So that's going to be interesting, seeing their style mixed with the Dawn's March. Like you said, I've wrestled Chase. Man, for that guy's size, you would not think he would be able to pull those W's that he does.
Listen, I think in GBW, he had the second best winning percentage. And, in quote unquote, in VTW, if you believe in that, he's actually walking around with a championship he didn't actually win.
Yes.
I don't right? Well, that's what it takes. He's a Bitcoin billionaire. I was wondering, because I've had Chase on a couple of times and I'm bringing him back. Have you ever actually seen any of Chase's Bitcoin billions?
No. I mean, okay. I'm gonna take a straight shot at Chase Wakefield.
By the way, yeah, go ahead.
How are you the Bitcoin billionaire, but you look like the Grudge, and like you're in like a $3 T-shirt? You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
Well, years ago there was a story that Jim Harbaugh was walking around in $8 Walmart pants. I mean, maybe he's just really frugal with his billions.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm certainly not going to ask Mr. Wakefield about his wardrobe. I mean, I'm sure when he comes back on Sportswire before the 24th, which he will be coming back on, I mean, maybe I'll ask that. But basically, you're not impressed, though, with his worth. Yeah. But his ring ability, though, is certainly one to not be taken lightly with. And another man that we've had on who's also a part of that, a guy I'm sure you know very well is also in there, Mr. Corey Graves. And, that's a really intriguing match. Like you said, that's a match I, would definitely, put some money up for a good cause and watch.
Yeah. The thing with Graves is I see like I look at people and I see a lot of potential. And Graves is definitely one of them. And I'm like, that dude, he has it. You know what I mean? He just needs that little push.
Yeah, he's kind of been an enigma. Like if you follow DBW, he's had success, but he hasn't quite gotten over the hurdle, if that makes sense.
Yes. And I think by placing him in there, putting the Dawn's March with Violent Love for a title match, will bring the best out of the Don's March. And I can't wait to see what those two do, honestly. I know that's going to be a good match.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, I had Corey on right before Christmas, and Chase Wakefield. Actually, if I could break the fourth wall, I actually have to give Chase Wakefield a huge shout out because Chase Wakefield actually messaged me about DBW and a couple different things I won't share on the air, but also he's the man that connected me to Aaron Jones coming on to Sportswire Radio. So what an absolute, well, of course, he's best friends with Aaron, quote unquote, although Aaron didn't seem like he was still best friends with Chase, but I have to give Mr. Wakefield his due, and I'm going to give Mr. Wakefield his due when I induct him into the Hall of Fame here very shortly. But for sure, Mr. Wakefield, Mr. Graves against Violent Love is going to be an awesome match. Let me get to some more comments because a lot of people want to talk to you. No, I'm not a billionaire, Jules. I'm not a billionaire. I do love wrestling and John Wick t-shirts because my guest yesterday, Jacoby, actually mentioned that. He goes, well, I know what you like to dress. You say it all the time on Sportswire. You go to all these places and you only dress up in wrestling and John Wick t-shirts. Yes, that is true. I am not a billionaire, though. I mean, I might be close to something that might be in the airs, but that doesn't quite make me a billionaire. What I will say, though, is I could probably own a wrestling promotion, too. But you know what? Who knows? Never say never. Never say never. But I'm not modest. I'm actually telling you verbatim the truth. But that's here nor there. Not about me right now. But yes, certainly I am very comfortable in my living, and we'll see about that. But not about me. Skulls wants to say that you remind him of Joe Hendry. Yes, Joe Hendry. By the way, I actually have a Joe Hendry connection. One of my friends is a guy, Davey Blaze, who Davey Blaze is one of the top independent wrestlers in the UK, who, oh, by the way, just wrestled some guy named James Storm. A lot of people know who James Storm is, Beer Money and NXT, and he actually wrestled him a couple of weeks ago, and Davey Blaze is a personal friend of mine. So I will certainly tell Skulls about your Joe Hendry thoughts because Davey Blaze, so you know, actually feuded with Joe Hendry back when he was just before he broke into TNA. So thank you, Skulls, for the kind words, for letting him know that. But I think Van Hansen's a lot more popular, and we'd rather have Van Hansen rather than Joe Hendry on Sportswire. It's okay. I'm giving you an endorsement. This was an endorsement earned, not given. I do have one here from Boogs. Boogs, not related to Rick Boogs, who is no longer in WWE. What cure are you fighting for?
We are fighting for Ewing sarcoma. We are doing it for a little girl and to raise money for her second fight with Ewing sarcoma.
Okay, well, you know what? Definitely, might make an endorsement of that at the end of the show, but I'll come back. We got a lot more to talk about with you, I'm sure. Van should do a song with Ray Clyde and me.
Okay, Ray Clyde's real recent, actually. I'll give a shout out to Ray Clyde. So I was at McDonald's the other night, and the guy at the window was talking about doing a music career. And he said, and you will never, ever forget the name Ray Clyde. And I looked him up. I can't find him, but I never forgot his name. I mean, that was 2 nights ago.
Are you sure you're not doing a career in stand-up comedy rather than a career in wrestling? Are you sure that that's the career? Because people ask me all the time that, but people want to get me off the air. I mean, you have a bigger following than me, so you might want to take over my chair. But hopefully your McDonald's, real quick, hopefully your McDonald's was a lot better than mine, because my McDonald's, every time I go there, because I live in Staten Island, New York, and in my McDonald's, every time I have to go, when I want to buy a soda or French fries, so it doesn't happen that often, I've got to wait like 15 minutes when nobody's in line. I'm like, hello, I'm the only person in the store. All I wanted was a large Coke and a medium fries. Does it take 15 minutes to give it to me? So hopefully your McDonald's doesn't have those same problems. That's certainly different conversation for a different time, but I do appreciate that. Thank you, Jules. Yes, Jules had asked the same question, and I appreciate that. Who do I have to root for to cure cancer?
Me.
Well, because you're putting on the show, so technically that would be you're actually correct on. Can you fight cancer?
I could sure as hell try. I mean, like literally, or like fist fight, or like actually fight it. Like,
how about both?
I hope so.
You're trying. Well, February 24th, if you support this cause at our Fight for a Cure show between Enterprise and Amplify, I think that would be a great way to actually help. Also, no, I'm just telling you the straight facts. Thank you for that. I got a good one here that will certainly take a slight detour. Maybe I'll make an announcement right after this here. from Kid Mike, who is, by the way, our XSSW
Mhm.
World Heavyweight Champion, Ultra Violent Champion. Also, your colleague in the Murder City Hit Squad. What is your most memorable match?
Okay. My most memorable match was probably I worked with it was Harlan Kano, Doken, Titan, and I versus Jason Valentine, Diamond X Cross, Corey the Inferno Gebhardt with Larry Zimmerman in a steel cage match at Harley Davidson for the Muscular Dystrophy Association.
Oh wow! I
That
feel like
was
some of those names I've heard of. I feel like I've heard of some of those names in the Pennsylvania wrestling scene. I feel like I've heard those names for sure.
that one, and well, like I guess I would say probably if I want to pick three here for the second
Pick
one.
30 if you want. Pick 30.
Yeah. One of them would actually have to be against Cyrus.
Well, I was gonna get to that eventually. If we're talking Merry Mayhem, I will get to that. I mean, I will certainly get to that.
And it's always hard to pick. Like my most, that's probably those two. And shoot, no, that's it for now.
I was kind of like waiting for like a big moment there, a big thing to say, and you kind of like drew a blank. I'll let it pass. I'm only goofing. Also here, the red chair.
The red chair. Oh, the red chair that goes into business for itself. Okay. So in SSW, we have this red chair. It's like cursed. And anytime like you pull that thing out, you accidentally end up hitting the wrong person, or the chair will set up by itself in the ring. It's like the chair you don't want to grab. It falls all the time. Like the first time I pulled the red chair out, Harlan Kano was holding up Diamond X Cross for me, and I swung it, and Dex dropped, and I cracked it over Kano's head. And that was like a unprotected chair shot. That was not fun.
Oh, well, that certainly hurts. That certainly, I'm sure that when you remember for a little while. Hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Almost sounds like, I hate to quote a song, almost sounds like, speaking of Jerry Cantrell, Alice in Chains' Angry Chair. So like
Angry Chair.
That's what I thought. I kind of liked Angry Chair, but that was a good song, by the way. I did like Angry Chair. That was off Dirt. Yeah. Dirt was okay. Yeah, Dirt was okay. I think I liked Facelift a little better because Facelift was more metallic, but people don't want to hear me talk about Alice in Chains. But I can definitely do that, I could, but I don't know. People might want to hear you more about wrestling. I mean, I'll come back to that. I definitely will come back to that. Somebody's having fun. They have cancer. Can you fight it?
Yeah. Yeah. Come to my house and I will beat the cancer out of you.
Well, you know what? If you have a door knock in the next 30 minutes, that's where it's going to come from here. But okay, well, maybe I can make my announcement. While I have people's attention, speaking, you're talking a lot about Kid Mike. You've been speaking a little bit about the Murder City Hit Squad.
Mm-hmm.
You've been speaking about obviously a lot of things and superstar wrestling. But actually, speaking of Kid Mike, if I could, I'm actually going to have him in your chair on Sportswire Radio coming up on February the 20th. That's right. So that's going to be, in about a month from now, we're going to have on the man that is the World Heavyweight Champion, the Ultra Violent Champion, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on all Sportswire Radio platforms, including YouTube at Sportswire Radio, 6579 backspace streams, Twitter at Thomas Price 2017. Also, sportswireradio.org via the Listen Live button. Also on Twitch at Sportswire Radio. Kid Mike, the reigning defending SSW champion, the Ultra Violent Champion, speaks live to the nation here on Sportswire Radio 4 weeks from tomorrow. So there you have it. That's my announcement. You had something right off the top. You had a bombshell. I actually had one for you. So Mr. Mike is going to be here, and I'm sure he'll share some stories about you, talk about being a double champion, and who knows what else. And I'm sure hopefully that'll be as lively as this one is tonight. So, people are having fun with you. So I'm going to kind of go with it because I was going to ask you something else. But when will you wrestle with oil?
I already have.
Tell me about it.
I was in a rumble with Absolute Thomas Mathis,
Okay.
and he was just covered in baby oil, and we tried to grab him, and he slid right through.
Is that the Andre story? Baby oil, baby oil. You ever hear that Andre story about the baby oil? He actually said it in that voice. I think Hogan told it on the Andre story, the HBO documentary. Baby oil, baby oil.
And also, I used to put like oil and grease and stuff in my hair before matches. And one show, I did that ahead of time so I wouldn't have to do my hair and all that. And Brutal Bob Evans showed up.
I heard that
And-
name before, Brutal Bob Evans.
Yeah,
Absolutely heard that name.
from Ring of Honor.
Yep, definitely heard that name.
It was him and Tough Tim Hughes as Tough Guy Inc. They showed up and did a seminar, and I'm standing there with like oil and crap in my hair, and they can't really work with me because I'm all like greased up.
Why didn't you do the Triple H, put the water over your hair, the water bottle thing? That would have been worked a little bit either. I do it all the time. I don't know why you didn't try that route.
I do that now.
Okay. It'll save your hair in the long run, because the
Mhm.
more products you put in, the more, oil and the hairspray and everything else, you won't have much hair to begin with. So, it does help, but hopefully you don't do it again. Although to be fair, I was listening, I don't know if anybody's football fans or not, but guys in the cold that don't wear shirts, they actually, to kind of keep themselves warm, put Vaseline on their shoulders, like they see out the shirts. They're actually, even though they you would think they'd be cold, they're actually, with the Vaseline, it kind of heats up their body, so they're able to kind of go out there. So that would be a good point there. But also here, will you be releasing music on Spotify?
Yes. Anton and I have talked about this, finding a release date, because we have this song together called Blind Girl Dreams.
Okay.
And we're talking about releasing it soon. It's been recorded for like 2 years now. It's a song about dating a blind chick.
Okay.
And among other things that I'm not going to say on here.
I mean, you could. I mean, I just would want to make sure you get, continue to be booked. I mean, you could say these things, but like I said, this could be either a Howard Stern show or a Sportswire show. But then again, tomorrow my show at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time with AKA Necro Daddy Chris Levitt, where he's basically going to, I'm sure, take on like half of the people that bash Sportswire. I'm sure is going to be worse than this. So I'm sure that'll be a fun interview. But I want you to be booked, but they're going back and forth about hair pulling. I'll do you one better. Does anyone pull your hair, Van?
Okay. That's a reference to this one guy who used to message me and ask me that.
Kind of an odd request there, you think? No? You think that's kind of a little odd to message you about hair pulling? Interesting, huh?
Yeah, and I would just be like, "Oh yeah, it happens in matches." And yeah, he said he liked it. He was, and actually, he was. I'll just say this: he was a senator.
Wow.
Yeah.
A senator. Interesting. As a man that has worked in politics and a man that worked at one time for 2 state senators, I actually would have not been surprised at all that you said that, but you learn something new every day on Sportswire. So I'm sure that somebody out there knows who they are. But also Jules wants to say it's too bad his hair is all greased up. I love to see a good hair pulling. Well, we're not going to do that on the air. But Thomas Taft and the Freak, I know Thomas, Mr. T3 himself, Thomas Taft. I know Thomas Taft very well. We know him very well. We've had him on Sportswire. Yes, Thomas Taft. Sorry for the Steelers fans here. I hope he's not depressed about the Steelers right now because they didn't have a quarterback. Don't feel too bad about the Steelers. They still made the playoffs, but I hope Thomas Taft is well. We love Thomas Taft. How you doing? People are having a lot of fun. I don't even have to ask you questions. I think that the comment section can just do my job. It might be more entertaining anyway. If you could wrestle former President Martin Van Buren, who would win?
Okay, so now here's my train of thought. Is this Martin Van Buren in his prime, or is this him now as a corpse?
Well, I would think he'd be in his prime because how long has that corpse been a corpse? I would think that
Right.
I would think he'd be in his prime.
I mean, I guess I'll put Martin Van Buren over. I don't care.
Well, I mean, you know what? That might be the most memorable put over you'd have. I mean, so you can look at it from that standpoint. I mean, you're putting over a former president. I mean,
Yeah.
Look, there's a former president that wrestled, that was in WrestleMania back in 23. So who knows? He doesn't.
Mhm.
Not to even go there. I'll certainly let people think about that, but I'll let this one pass. What you have to do? Well, actually, you know what? I have a funny retort to that. You ready?
Mm.
Just whatever you do, don't pull what Psycho Sid did in WrestleMania 13. If anybody
Oh
remembers
yeah.
the main event of WrestleMania 13, whatever you do, at least don't pull a Psycho Sid, or the other story was the finals of the King of the Ring 1993, Bret Hart versus Bam Bam Bigelow. I think Bam Bam Bigelow mentioned something. I think Bret Hart had the same problem, but it wasn't as bad as Sid. But Sid's
Mhm.
was like so noticeable
Yeah.
right at the start of them.
So so funny thing, Anton, Nathan, and we wrestled the Freak and Mosh Pit, and right before the match, I had like two those chocolate milk protein things, and I ate like an egg sandwich somewhere. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I said, I'm sorry if I fart during this match. And I remember I hit my leg drop, and as I was coming down, it was just the whole way down on the mosh pit's face.
Well,
And
yeah,
he
that.
didn't even care.
Well, you know what? I guess what's the Steve Winwood song? You guess you roll with it. I guess you certainly
Yeah.
roll with it. I would suppose, but look, I mean, each to its own, I suppose. But we'll certainly say, hopefully next time you don't have the egg salad and the chocolate protein
Yeah.
bar at the same time. It's rather an interesting, combination. I mean, I've heard guys have chicken before a match. I've heard
Mhm.
guys have, all types of things. Let's say a slice of pizza or a sandwich. But you know what? If it worked for you, did you win the match at least?
No.
All
We
right. Well, then, you
didn't.
know what? There you go. We'll move off.
I couldn't remember.
That was a good question. That was a good follow-up. Would you rather wrestle Anton in a pool of sharks or Judgment in a field of evil birds? Ooh, I think I might go with the pool of sharks, because
Yeah.
Judgment in a field of evil birds, having Judgment on here twice, I don't know about Judgment and evil birds. Judgment
No.
reminds me of in the John Wick movies, there was Lawrence Fishburne's character who was the homeless guy with the birds, he was like the bird watcher with the pigeons. I almost feel like that would be Judgment.
So I'm not afraid of Mr. Judgment. I'll just say that right now. But
Yeah.
Kid Mike knows that I am deathly afraid of birds.
Okay.
So I have to go with the pool of shark, because I know, like, Kid Mike says evil birds. He's talking about a shoebill stork, and you're not getting me in a field of those. No. Anton in a pool of sharks. I will get my arms bitten off, my legs bitten off before I come face to face with a shoebill stork. I'm serious. I'll have nightmares now. Thanks.
Well, I mean, it'll certainly be not a nightmare on Elm Street, but it'll be a nightmare on Van Helmsen Street, or Van Hansen Street, you might want to say here. Garden of Ban Bilago. Is that how I said that correctly? Or Bigello? I don't even know how to say it.
I think he's parodying Bam Bam Bigelow with Garden of Ban Bigelow.
Ah, okay.
So,
Garden of Ban Bigelow. Okay.
Are you familiar with Garden of Ban Ban?
Yeah, yes, a little bit. Yes, I am.
Yeah,
okay.
I love Garden of Ban Ban for some strange reason. It's horrible. But now I'm imagining Jumbo Josh just like dropping off the top rope with one of those like Bam Bam bombs.
Well, you know what? You certainly learn something new every time you're on Sportzwire Radio. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters. We're pretty much talking about everything here with Mr. V to the H of Van Hansen. And if you want to follow Van Hansen, this is a great way to actually give him a whole bunch of different plugs, because there's a lot of ways to get in touch with him and even maybe buy some merchandise. He's on Instagram at van.hansen with a 0, YouTube van.hansen, Facebook Van Hansen, Twitch Van_Hansen, Twitter it's Van Hansen. You want to buy some merchandise, that's there also. And if you like what you hear from us, yes, I see it right there. Yes, he's got the classic Black Sabbath logo there. Yes, although I was more of a Dio fan, but I'll talk about that in a little while. But obviously, if you want to follow him, those are his platforms. He's also the owner and operator of Amplified Wrestling, and alongside Enterprise Wrestling, they're putting on a phenomenal show February 25th, which I give my full endorsement to. It's called Fight for a Cure. You're going to see Van Hansen in the ring against the Mauler, Brandon Castelli. We'll see if he rocks hard. You're going to see the Dawn's March, Chase Wakefield and Corey Graves back in action. You're going to see a Bears Rumble. You're going to see probably a lot more else in between. We'll talk about all that here over the next few weeks on Sportswire Radio. But if you like us here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you can listen to all of our great content here on sportswireradio.org, and also check us out on our YouTube channel for past, present, and future shows here on YouTube, and more shows with Van Hanson, because Van Hanson's definitely a guy that's V to the H, and he's definitely doing that and living up to a lively discussion here. And that's to get in touch with Sport, just about at 500 subscribers. So go subscribe, go follow, tell your friends, and we'll be here on Sportswire Radio more often what you do it. It's a great segue about your YouTube page. I want people to follow you on YouTube, because congratulations, not too long ago, you surpassed over 1,000 subscribers, which means for those that know this, you're qualified for monetization. So congratulations on that, which a lot of people have been asking me with, and people are telling me they're really excited about what's going on here, but you have made it. Congratulations. And great segue. Before I come back to DBW and other things, what is your favorite video made?
Oh, man. So funny thing, I've been making videos since I was 6 years old. Okay.
Oh, wow.
I started YouTube when I was in 2011.
Okay.
And most of the channels that I did videos for are not around anymore. So the Van Hanson channel is only about a year old. And it was my way of like putting, still making videos and putting them out. And I'll just say too, like, I wasn't going to do it for very long until people started like responding that they actually liked the content. And with that being said, I think my favorite video has to be from the Van Hanson channel, at least. Mr. Huber is definitely one of them. That was a challenge. I made that video in like 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
That was a challenge. I really love doing the Metal Talk Mondays.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that in a few minutes. That's, as a metal guy myself, I really have some bones to pick with you.
And I did
the Super Mario ones was the ones I was, when we first spoke, I was like, wow, you were really good at that. I mean, you had like almost 3,000 views, I think, on that one alone. Yeah. I think on your YouTube channel alone, you've got like almost 50,000 views already.
That Mario video was actually like the saving grace for the channel, because
why?
I was running out of like, so I always wanted to do gaming videos, like reviews, and I didn't know where to start. And
Castlevania, I think you did also was a good one. I saw that was a good one.
Yeah, I did that one, but I was like stuck, and I was like, what am I going to do a game review of? And like, I was like, a year went by, and I was like, what do I start with? And then I just one day went, I'll just start with the first 3 Mario games. I mean, that's where a lot of people start in gaming. So
yeah.
And then when that video got, I think when it broke like 100 views, I went, I'm going to do this more often. So that Mario video is definitely like special to me. It's not like the most edited or produced compared to, like, let's say the Wario Land videos.
Yes,
the Wario Land video.
I think that had like 1,600 views or something like that, right? The Wario Land video.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite videos I've made, but one of the worst, like, timing wise, because that took 2 months.
Oh my God.
2 months.
When I used to edit my podcast, as we're celebrating my 5-year anniversary on Thursday, when I was before video, we're talking 4 years ago now. So we're talking, pre any of this. And I used to take me to do a podcast I would put up. I was a freak for editing. I would want every little drop off the interview, and I would edit for like 2 days. So I understand the editing,
With that, it was, I laid out the schedule and I went, okay, I just got to play 4 games. I think it was 4 games in that video. And then I was like, but I'm a completionist, so I got to 100% these 4 games, even though you're not going to see it in the video. And then it was, now I got to take all the footage from the capture card, all from the desktop. Then I got, and that was originally like a 15-page script. And I had to record it over and over again because the microphone at the time, it's actually like right here, was crapping out.
I actually have, I think I have the same microphone. It's funny. So I think I have the same microphone. I used it once and I'm like, yeah, That's gonna stay in my room. I'm never gonna use that one again. Yeah, I know exactly the one. I bought it for like $60, I think.
Yeah, and then I bought as fate would have it. I talked to DVG one night about audio quality.
Oh,
And
he's Mr. Audio. I mean, he's on the show Sunday to be inducted into a Hall of Fame. He's Mr. YouTube. He's like a YouTube celebrity.
And he sold me this. So
okay. That looks pretty good. You know what? That's a good one. See, I am a stickler. I just love holding the mic. People are like, well, you can put the mic down. You know what it is? I just love holding the mic. Yeah,
that's why I kind of have it like loose.
Yeah, I noticed guys do that. I was on a podcast Friday night reviewing the 1991 Royal Rumble on my internet radio station, and the guy had this big microphone, and then luck and behold, he couldn't air the video on YouTube because of copyrights. So I couldn't even see me talking about it. But but the Mike Tyson one also, I think, was your biggest one, right? Mike Tyson had 4,000 views or something like that.
That's the biggest review video. Yeah, that one again. That one came at a horrible time in my life where my grandfather was very sick.
I'm sorry.
And I was watching Mike Tyson Mysteries suggested by Anton, and I was watching it with my wife and my cousin while we were staying at my grandparents' house. And then after I got done binge watching the whole show, I was like really sad. I didn't want to make a video because my grandfather did end up passing away.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to push through this. I think it's going to be a good video. And that one took a while because I just wasn't in the feels for it. But then looking back, I loved working on that, actually. That was a lot of fun. And of course, I got a custom Mike Tyson tracksuit out of it.
Well, that certainly helps. I mean, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Well, you say Mike Tyson, everybody automatically has a story. I mean, let me ask you real quick, and I know people have comments. I'm going to get to everybody. Just hang on tight. I know people really are into you, which is really great. And I knew this would happen. I did say in my video this would be a lively discussion. So I knew right away when you asked me, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good one. I've had some ones this week, and I was like, this one I knew was not going to be at all that way. But let me ask you, though, a question. When you hit 1,000 subscribers, what did that mean to you?
I was absolutely blown away because that's the most amount of subscribers I've ever had. And the Mike Tyson video is what did it. I put that up. I was like, okay, let it go. I come back the next day and my subscriber count went from like 100 to 300. And I was like, wow, people must have liked it. And then like 2 weeks later, it's bumped to 1,000. And I was I put my phone down. I laid down on the couch I have at my job, and I just shook. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
I was just like, wow. Like, I know like some people will say that's not a lot of people. It doesn't matter, but it really does matter. Because the way I think of it is, imagine 1,000 people all standing in one room staring at you.
I'm glad you said that. I've always lived by that motto. I've always lived by that motto that, you think about it, 1,000 people in a room is the equivalent of being in a mid-sized theater. And hold on to that thought. I actually want to say hello to somebody very quickly that just saw me on the Pinstripe Chronicles podcast, which is my internet radio station where the guys play on my show, the Yankees channel. And what's going on here? First of all, Strike Zone, thank you for tuning in. You're here on Sportswire Radio Live. We're talking, well, we're really talking wrestling, but we're pretty much talking everything else in the world of current events and music and everything else. And if you have a podcast out there, Strike Zone, definitely let me know. I love to play your content, love to play your shows. You can message me personally on Instagram at the Sports Report 2021, or catch me here on YouTube at my link, or sportswireradio.org. And if there's anything that you suggest you want me to play on our internet radio, I will be more than happy to oblige. But we're pretty much talking here. We do wrestling mostly on our live shows. We do some sports, a number of different things. But thank you very much to Strike Zone for tuning in, and thank you for your support. It was a great honor to induct those guys, Bob B. Tats, or Uncle Tats, Rob Barros, and Donald Stewart, into my Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. So thank you very much for that. And follow Van Hanson, sub to his YouTube page. So 1,000 subscribers was a big deal. Yes. I'm sure when you hit to 2,000 subscribers, that'll be a bigger deal. But I want to talk to you about these metal videos. And I first of all want to talk about the Black Sabbath you were not so high on the Ronnie James Dio years. It seemed like, Mob Rules, Dehumanizer, and I'm going to give you a pass because you didn't count kind of the Heaven and Hell run that they had where they sort of came back in between that phase of they had reunited with Ozzy and then they didn't come back with Ozzy before 13. And, just give me your thoughts on some of that. I think I did kind of agree with you, though, on Never Say Die. I thought Never Say Die was a little bit of an underrated album. It's kind of a weird time in the band's history. But before I get to some more comments, I have to ask you about that. Why not so big a fan of the Dio years?
So I love the Heaven and Hell album. The first one Dio was on.
Cy Young was on there. Heaven and Hell, Lady Evil, the great bass line. Yep. Neon.
And yes, and half of Mob Rules I really liked. Like, I'll be honest, like Mob Rules to me, like half of it's really great and half of it's just really okay. You know what I mean? But Sign of the Southern Cross.
Sign of the Southern Cross was great. I think that was I think that was the second side of the album, if I'm not mistaken. Was that the opening track on the second side? I think it might have been. I think Sign of the Southern Cross, Country Girl. I know people did not like Country Girl. For whatever reason, people did not like that song. I happen to like that riff.
But and don't get me wrong, I love Ronnie James Dio. I prefer Dio's solo over Ozzy's solo, but I prefer Ozzy and Sabbath just because
I'm glad you said the Dio solo. I think the Dio solo had far more depth than Ozzy to me, really after, I would say, after Bark at the Moon, really, with the exception of like No More Tears. And No More Tears was great. Osmosis was okay, but after that, it's all like three songs. I mean, the new album, I only liked Parasite. I liked, Degradation Rules, and I liked was it No Evil or something like that, or was it Evil Shuffle? It was Evil Shuffle.
Shuffle.
I didn't like anything else on Patient Number 9. Even the Jeff Beck song was boring to me. But yeah, Ozzy, he was too commercialized after a certain point.
I think I honestly think I prefer Ozzy though and Sabbath because like I just was always around that.
It's a longer catalog. The catalog's bigger. I mean, Ozzy, had what, 9 albums?
9 albums of the 19.
Dio had 3. I mean, really 3. You can't count the Heaven and Hell one. So he had 3 albums. He was in the band for what, 4 years, really? Like 4,
and 5. I also think like the Tony Martin era of Sabbath is kind of underappreciated.
Yes, the Tony Martin was definitely underappreciated because it came at a bad time in music. It came at a bad time in metal, and I think
he was the 4th singer for Sabbath because Ian Gillan did Born Again.
Yes, he did Born Again. You correct.
And then
Born Again wasn't that bad though. Born Again, I didn't think it was that bad, honestly.
To me, it's more of it. For me, it's the production of the album.
Oh, the quality of it sucked. It was like that was a cash grab. There was no question that was a cash grab. It was just no question about that. And I will follow you, the Strike Zone, if you want to follow the Strike Zone on YouTube at the Strike Zone 1. I'm going to sub to you, and if there's anything I can do to play your podcast, I will be in touch with you after the interview. But yeah, real quick. Tony Martin was good. I think I was telling you off the air that Eddie Van Halen actually wrote a Black Sabbath song. I believe it. He co-wrote a Black Sabbath song. Was it T.Y.? It was Headless Cross. I think it was Headless Cross.
Was it?
He wrote an album, and Ice-T, which you brought up, good call on your point, actually had a song with Black Sabbath.
Yes, Illusion of Power.
Yep.
Or The Illusion of Power.
And of course, Ice-T did a song on the last Megadeth album with Night Stalkers with Dave Mustaine.
Night Stalkers. Yeah. And that is one of the heaviest Megadeth songs ever.
Absolutely.
Too.
I mean, on real quick, Megadeth, I'm so like, I loved a certain era of Megadeth, and I mean, I don't know, Mustaine, I don't know if he tries to purposely alienate his fan base, but I feel like he's tried to do that so many times, like with Super Collider and, certainly Risk. Yeah. I mean, Super Collider was like the worst album I think I've ever heard of any band. Even you mentioned you did your Iron Maiden one, but I think Super Collider was just, I don't know what was the point.
The Iron Maiden one.
You were mentioning Virtual X1 and your like videos for the art covers.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
You gave a very low score to the Blaze Bailey run. I think it was X Factor and Virtual X1. I think it was, but at
That was
least you were a little redeeming for me. But
that was more for the artwork.
yeah,
Because like I put Dance of Death at last, but that album's really good actually. Like,
Dance of Death. Yeah, I think Brave New World was a much better album, but you had a little higher on your artwork. Brave New World was great. I mean, Brave New World was, I think, the first heavy metal album I think I might have bought because it came out in 2000. Yeah, with Bruce Dickinson came back. That was Iron Maiden. It was Iron Maiden, Queensryche, and Halford were on a tour, and I got into heavy metal. Like we're talking like 2001. Yeah, that was great. Rock in Rio. Yeah, I mean that was I would say Brave New World was a great album, and A Matter of Life and Death was phenomenal. You had that a little higher. That was a great album. That was great artwork. That was a good.
Yes.
I see people are leaving here, and you will come back and I promise you a few minutes. But yeah, Megadeth, real quick. We'll get to more wrestling because I see people are dropping in the numbers. I get it, but real quick on Megadeth, I do think that Megadeth tried at least on the musicianship. I think Cryptic Writings, you were right, was better than Risk. I think if Risk wasn't named Megadeth, would have been a great album. But to me, my biggest problem with Mustaine was that he kept trying to basically make his band something that wasn't, and he was almost trying to chase Metallica. He should have never kept trying to kind of either face off with Metallica or basically kind of copy them. I think that was his biggest problem.
Mm-hmm. And Dave Mustaine himself said if Risk would have had any other band names on any other band name on the album, it would have sold.
Oh, it would have sold freaking 3 million, 4 million because it was musically it was a good album. I mean, Wanderlust was good. I mean, Breadline was okay. I mean, wrestling fans, Crush 'Em was Goldberg's entrance for a while, which Crush 'Em was definitely not a Megadeth song. Prince of Darkness might have been the most. I think Prince of Darkness might have been maybe the most metallic song on the album, if I recall. Seven was like weird. That was kind of a little bit Sabbathy, very Sabbathy jazz, like but there was definitely I'll Be There was definitely like not a Metallica song. That was should have been on our Bon Jovi album. That was not at all a Megadeth song. That was Time. There was it was. Musically, it was good. Cryptic Writings wasn't that bad, though. Cryptic Writings, I actually kind of liked Cryptic Writings because She-Wolf was on there. There was elements of it, Almost Honest was okay. I mean, there was some. I think what was it? Six was a fight. I think it was Fight. I'm trying to think. It was Almost Honest. It was trying to think what else was on there. Oh, Trust. Trust was an ECW. They used that in the ECW soundtrack. That's where the wrestling was. Yeah. But Megadeth, to me, they lost the momentum. Rust in Peace. I do agree with you, though, that Rust in Peace or Holy Wars, you should get into more than Countdown first. Because Countdown to Extinction was like, that was such almost a response to the Black Album. I mean, it was a great album, but it just wasn't.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't what you really think of when you think Megadeth.
No, they tried to be hard rock. That was where they were starting to almost dumb down the audience. Countdown to Extinction, Euthanasia. You had the song in your catalog where Mustaine basically writes about himself at the end of the album. Yeah, that was kind of funny. I did like 13. 13 was pretty good. Yes. United Abominations was actually good. But one that I like the most, believe it or not, and we'll move back to wrestling because I do want to talk to you in the time I have, is what was it? The System Has Failed. That was a great album, but it was not a Megadeth album. It was basically a cash grab because Mustaine didn't have any real musicians on the band. But The System Has Failed was a great album. That was just a great album. But yeah, Megadeth they just lost it. They lost it. They just
Yeah, and it didn't help though that either like it seemed like every time you got a good Megadeth album, you were bound to get like a few bad ones.
Yes, exactly.
Around that time period.
Megadeth
because like I remember
bad albums. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I remember like Endgame came out, and that was phenomenal. And then 13
was
came
great.
out.
Yes, that was the one where I think where Elvson came back in the videos they did. Yeah, there was some really great bass lines in that album. The Endgame was very good. Yes, Endgame was good.
And then 13 followed, and then Super Collider followed. So
oh my God, Super Collider! What that
Super
video?
Collider.
Oh my God, I think it's collecting dust in my room somewhere. Dystopia was okay. I mean, listen, the last album wasn't bad. I think it was a good start, but he tries to deviate. He tries to go off the the thing here. I will go back to wrestling in a second, and we're here with Van Hanson. Follow him in all these links. I would love to see you rate two bands. I'd love to see you rate Queensryche's catalog, and I'd love to see you rate either Slayer, or I'd love to see you rate Dream Theater's catalog. Those would be one of those bands I'd love to see you rate, and along with Queensryche.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
Queensryche would be interesting.
I have a lot of the episodes already like pre-selected, but I can, yeah. I know Slayer.
You don't have to do it. I mean, I was just saying because, again, I'm a fan of these bands, and Overkill. By the way, local band Overkill. I'd love to see you rate Overkill. Overkill, kind of to me, the most underrated thrash band ever. I mean, Overkill. I mean, I don't know why they never. Although they did play. Did you see that they actually played on the in the opening for the Metallica 72 Seasons tour? They played at the parking lot at MetLife. So, I mean, Overkill, local band. Okay, well, let me get to some comments here. I'm going to come back to DBW. Let me say hello here to a number of people. First of all, I got WWE fan watching WWE Raw. Cody Rhodes face off with CM Punk. Things are getting interesting. Yes, I just did see that. Thank you very much. But, real quick, what do you think about the Murder City Hit Squad coming on here instead of just Mr. Kid Mike on February 20th? What are you doing on February 20th? Oh, sounds like you might be not you might be available then, right? Sounds like you might be free.
Might be. No,
might be interested.
We can make something work.
Okay, sounds like that could certainly be a lot here of a good deal. You've been taught him a lot about editing. Very nice. Mm-hmm. How you doing, LaDon Sanders? What's your favorite color?
Purple, deep purple.
Deep purple. Another band though that I don't even know why they're Deep Purple. I think they retired like 10 years ago, or still on tour, by the way. Another discussion for another time. Who are your 5 dream opponents? I know you probably answered this already, but who are your 5 dream opponents?
X-Pac. I'd like to work. Oh, you know what? Christian Cage.
Man. Oh my God! How about how he's reinvented himself in the last 2 years? How he has reinvented himself. He might be the most heel of anybody in the sport right now.
Mm-hmm. I bet LaDon wants me to say him, but I've wrestled him 3 or 4 times. So, no, I'd run it with LaDon again. We pitched the idea, oh my gosh, 4 years ago to do a death match with each other. And
well, if you want a death match, I am kind of friends with a guy named Jimmy Controversy. If you want, I could tell him if you ever want to do a death match. I know you're not really a death match guy, but I could certainly make a phone call or two if you ever wanted. I mean, certainly I would say, with precaution maybe, but I'm sure Mr. Controversy, he's in the area, by the way. He's in local guy, not too far from you. I'm sure we could make something happen.
I remember seeing Controversy do the whole Willow thing when it was brand new on GTS. So, I watched GTS when it started in 2011 with Hey Yo to the Joes. So I know all about Jimmy Controversy.
And apparently, a team you share a locker room with actually are employees with Mr. Controversy, the Brooklyn Prodigies. They're in Pro Wrestling Venom. So I could just say, Mr. Controversy is actually a fan of Sportswire. He's come on the show twice, and he actually messages me randomly. So I could certainly, I could actually say that because Mr. Controversy likes the platform. He actually shared one of my posts the other day on Twitter. So without just randomly. So, if you ever wanted death matches, I could certainly tell Mr. Controversy you might be interested.
What do you think, LaDon? You want to run it?
I'll let him know. I want to say hello to my buddy Nicholas Crenson. Nicholas is going to be here next Thursday at 11 o'clock Eastern time. He'll be inducted into our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. How you doing, Nicholas Crenson? Nicholas just came back, speaking of death matches and hardcore matches. He was just in one for the IMF's New Year's Vengeance show. Hope your back is treating you well. Before I come to DBW for the second half of the show, or the final 20 or 30 minutes, what's your YouTube plans for 24, if you want to give them away?
So we got Sci-Fi May. That's going to be all of May, 1 video a day, reviewing a sci-fi movie.
Oh, cool.
Okay. 80s month will be in July, but I might switch it to something else. I'm thinking about doing something else instead. I'll leave
80s,
that up there.
I always think 80s is a July month, though. I always think the 80s summer. Yeah. I think about the movies. That was 80s. I mean,
of course, Metal Talk Monday all year long.
Oh, I could hear that at Metal Talk every day. I mean, at this point, I actually
Yeah.
I should probably share one quick metal story, one more story, and I'll come back to DBW. I actually, as a kid, wrote to Anthrax. This was when their last album with John Bush came out, We've Come For You All, and they actually gave me flyers for the album, and they gave me a bunch of stickers, and I wound up going to Times Square and actually passing out flyers for the album. Yeah, the band wrote to me. I still have it to this day. I still have some of the flyers that I wrote to the band. Yeah, and I was like, they wrote back and they gave for that day ever. I'm another band though that definitely lost it. I mean, they're great now, but they haven't put out any music in ages. Obviously, Charlie Benatti's in let me say this with an asterisk, in Pantera. He's in Pantera with an asterisk, but that's a band that, I mean, I forgot, they're like Guns N' Roses now. They don't put out any new music. I mean, but a band that had an interesting run. Bush. They tried, another band that tried too hard but got it right though finally, but haven't put out any new music. But okay, enough about that. My arms and hands hurt more than my back, surprisingly. Well, you know what? Check his back out. You'll find out why. Okay, I got to come to DBW for the remaining part of the show. Okay. Now, last I saw you in the ring, you were competing for that global championship against Cyrus the It Factor. Yes. I want to remind you, in your chair 1 week from now, same time, Cyrus is going to be here to talk about your match you had with him. He's going to talk about a man that has attacked you now twice at the end of the DBW season, and it was the first guest of 2024 on this platform, Jackson Sabre, a man that cost you your crack at that global championship. And Cyrus, well, he's going to be here to be inducted into our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. I'm giving you the opportunity to talk about what happened there. I'm giving you the opportunity to talk about anything that's on your mind when it comes to especially Jackson Sabre, or maybe even the It Factor Cyrus, who you had beat when it came to that DBW Global Championship in the semi-main event at Merry Mayhem.
So, I don't know if Cyrus and Jackson conspired to do what happened. I think Jackson's just mad because he stated that I was going to hit him with the chair, so he tried to defend himself in our match. That's not what happened. I've met a lot of people like Jackson. All he does is lie. As for Cyrus, I'm not going to discredit Cyrus. When you think of DBW and you think of longevity and relativity,
he's on the Mount Rushmore.
He is on the Mount Rushmore.
He's on the Mount Rushmore, right there with Judgment.
Cyrus, to be in that company as long as he has and stay relevant, has done a great job. I would say he's like the Randy Orton of DBW.
Yeah, I think he's been a constant. Yeah, he's been mostly a DBW guy. Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair analogy. I would give you that.
And stepping in the ring with him, it's funny because I'm going to give a little backstory here. When I started training to do indie wrestling, I worked with this lady who went to DBW shows. And so I watched DBW from like 2017 up until
the early days, which Judgment referred, well, quote unquote Judgment referred to before the World War show, where DBW started.
Yeah, and I watched DBW. I mean, not all the time, but I was subscribed. I would watch. I knew who Mr. Judgment was, Cyrus, and then I ended up working with Chase Wakefield in a warehouse. And, I mean, hey, so, but I used to see Cyrus matches, and then to actually it's weird because when I met Cyrus, like before we had that whole match and everything, Cyrus said he has seen my matches, and it's like, I was like, that's weird because I've seen yours too for a long time. So to step in there with Cyrus pretty early on in my DBW run was really cool. And I thought I had his number there, but I mean, things happen.
But you also, in that match, you kind of gave him a chance to come back up. You let him go to the outside. You finally chased him back in. I mean, do you think in a way your strategy in points of the match also let him hang around where somebody like a Saber kind of tried to get even on you, or to quote Megadeth, quote unquote, "I'll get even with you," more or less. I know
Yeah.
that was from I think Cryptic Writings, another forgettable album. But you gave that opportunity though for Mr. Cyrus to kind of hang around, where a guy like Saber got even with you, and you came up empty-handed.
See, when you go to a company, you want to put good first
First impressions.
yeah, you want to put good
Forget
first
that moment.
impressions.
Think of like Saved by the Bell when Zach would go timeout. That was the Zach
Yeah.
Morris timeout moment.
When you get, I wanted to make a good first impression. I wanted to come into the company. I wanted to be respectful. I, haven't wrestled these guys before. I wanted to get a feel of what was going on, and I wanted to be respectful to the veteran, in this case, Cyrus. And maybe I should have been a little bit more not, you know what I mean? I gave, like you said,
but you're not a rookie. You've been around for a long time wrestling.
I've been around for a long time.
Yeah,
but
I mean, so you're not, listen, you're not chopped liver. Some of these guys that have come on Sportswire and DBW, their ring experience, whether it's wherever form of wrestling, is less than yours. They're less experienced than yours. You've been around the game. You've been a champion in multiple places. You're the longest running company in Amplified. You won your first singles title in Superstar Wrestling. You've been a champion in IWL, so you've been around. You're not, you're not a nobody. I mean, you held your own. So I mean, you know better. No.
Yes, and part of the reason, like, I just thought going into this, like, I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to let Cyrus get up. I'm not going to hold him in the corner. I'm not going to like bring myself to the low levels of how Cyrus plays in order to win this match. And I've seen the way Cyrus moves in that ring. I've seen him cheat. I've seen him play dirty. And that's the thing, man. I didn't want, like, let's say if I won that championship, that would be a respectful win and add prestige to the title.
That sounds like Robert Pearson a few weeks ago when he was talking about Cyrus, and Robert Pearson doesn't have the experience as you. Robert Pearson, with all due respect, and I love Robert Pearson, I'll probably have a Robert Pearson follow-up question for you in a minute, but I mean, you know better, and you know at the end of the day in the record book, it doesn't matter how you won. You have that championship in the book of Cyrus so far in this new run of Cyrus, despite whatever people may say. It's kept him as a champion. He's going into the history books in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame next Monday.
I will just say, knowing that I messed up the way I did, if I ever get a chance to wrestle Cyrus again for that belt, you're not getting the same V to the H.
Okay, all right, but okay, fine. I'll give you that much. But Jackson Saber claims he's owed a shot at that championship. He also mentioned that Cyrus owes him now.
No.
What do you have to say about Jackson Saber?
Jackson Saber is one of those up-and-coming talents that thinks that he is owed everything just because he put a pair of boots on and wiped his feet on the apron. And that is not how it works, man. You are at the very bottom of your career right now. I hope you climb, right? I hope you take it further than what you're given. If that makes sense. Probably doesn't. But to sit there and demand this and that, dude, you've been in the business so far for a cup of coffee. I would slow it down. Yes, you had that shot against me for the number one contendership, man. But since, well, one, he cheated. That's not fair. That's not cool either, bro. Really?
No, he got a win over the Blaze Ace Christian. But again,
that he did.
Controversial fashion. I get it. And, people look at his track record in DBW and, it's certainly mixed, if that. I mean, and he's not a veteran. You're a veteran. Listen, you have been an established and respected veteran. And, I'm sure you have opinions on guys that have come on here from DBW who, their experience is a lot less than yours. And, if you think about that roster in DBW, I would have to say you're one of the more experienced veteran wrestlers on that roster, no?
Yes, that's correct.
So, okay. But
I think. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think with 2024, I've had enough experience now with the guys in DBW to where I think it's time for a little bit of a change. See, These guys play different. It's unlike any company I've worked for before. These guys do things a lot differently. And at first, I was playing to their rules.
Yeah,
That's
you
all.
seem like cheery, fun-loving. You'd come out there, and my first thought was, is he Van Hammer from WCW or Van Hansen? I mean, it was like, no, I don't know if you were trying that, Rob. I mean, I'm not trying to like make fun, but I mean,
No,
like you were
no,
definitely like,
no.
I don't know, like from what we've seen of you in other companies, which I agree with Kid Mike on, like total opposite. Almost like, I hate to say it, it was like the Bushwhackers were the sheep herders in the NWA and in Mid South. And then they came to the WWF and they were the Bushwhackers. Van Hansen, other companies, is, well, a guy that wins by any means necessary and has been an established champion. In DBW, it's like, not to say we got the watered down version of you, but we got like, I don't know, not the guy that we see in other places. I think that's a fair statement for me to make.
That is a fair statement to make. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
In Superstar Wrestling, I could consider myself the most dangerous man in that company, as I've almost pulled that company down so many times, marching in there, pulling their sales down. I am the propagandist for a reason. I am the Murder City Lich. The thing is, looking at it strategically, you really don't want to piss V to the H off, because I do have that switch. And I'm not trying to say that just to be cheesy. I truly mean that. I come into places, I respect people, I expect to be respected. But I'll just say, when you let the propagandist out, I know the truth of what's behind that curtain. I know the truth of those wrestling companies and what they try to sell to their fans. I don't buy it. And I've been in DBW a while now, where I've noticed a lot of the top guys aren't very nice people.
No, not at all. Not at all. To be honest with you, Judgment, Cyrus, these aren't nice people. I mean, Jackson Snow now. I mean, these are people that, Aaron Jones now. I mean, Aaron Jones is kind of Aaron Jones. I mean, I just named the 4 top champions,
Yeah.
And I think the theme is all the same there. No?
And no, you're right. And I think it's fair to say, in 2024, I think it's time DBW gets introduced to a new location.
A new location?
I might as well say, DBW, you're about to be running Murder City.
Oh, Jackson Sabre, you might have been the first guest of 2024. Cyrus, and we love you, Cyrus, on Sportswire, and thank you for the shout on Sportswire, but I don't know if something has been unleashed in Van Hansen, but I can tell you, this is not going to be, speaking of VH, it's not going to be the Sammy Hagar version of Van Halen. It's not going to be the watered-down Gary Sharon version of Van Halen. You're going to get that rough and aggressive, fair warning type of Van Halen here with V to the H Van Hansen. So I would say be very careful what you wish for here, and you might want to follow DBW and all those different platforms there, and especially buy some merchandise. Maybe we'll see a Van Hansen shirt there too, and Van Hansen's got his own store. Go out there and buy some merchandise with, and I cannot wait for the season to come up here in a few short months. We're not that far away. Listen, March, I know it's cold right now. I know it's snowy, it's damp, it's dark early, but March is not that far away. And before that, we're going to see Van Hansen February the 10th back in action, Superstar Wrestling, and especially in his own company, February the 24th. Here, Fight for a Cure, Amplified Wrestling. This is going to be one of the matches I'm really, really excited about. Castelli versus Hanson, the mauler who might rock hard against the V to the H. It's going to be one for the ages, and we might have him back here, it looks like, February the 20th with Kid Mike and others. You will definitely, I promise you, not want to miss that one here. As we come up here, about another 15 or so minutes with you, I got a few more things here from you. You should review Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi's not metal, though. I don't know. Does that count? I mean, I don't know. Bon Jovi.
I consider some of their stuff hair metal, but what am I going to talk about? Runaway, Bad Medicine, and...
To be honest, the only 2 albums I even think worthwhile, I hate to say it, is Keep the Faith in These Days. And that's like... I don't know. I think... Def Leppard, I'd say maybe, but even them, I don't think. I think it should stick to true metal bands. I don't even think you should cover Motley Crue. I think Motley Crue is not even metal. I don't even think, you should cover like AC/DC. It should be like bands that were received some form metallic. Again, my choice is Overkill, local, got to go with them. Slayer, I mean that's a no-brainer. Queensryche, and I said Dream Theater because I think Dream Theater, was another local band that definitely, again, progressive metal, not for everybody, but I think they were in that thing. And good one here, Deathmatch or a Symphony of Destruction match. Either way, I'm down. Maybe,
all right.
maybe so. I'm into that. I was telling one of my friends before I came here, who I met up with, I was like, he was asking me, what is deathmatch wrestling? And he goes, is it like old ECW? I said, no. ECW was like 80s WWF compared to like what Jimmy Controversy, Mikey Anarchy, Hardcore does, Obey does, Madman Pondo. So all that stuff there. He was like, oh, okay. He's like, I don't think I'm going to watch that. Well, that's because you're not into it, but that's okay. I'm into it though. He's going to get the Murder City Knight Van Hansen. Yes, definitely. I think
not the Knight, the Lich.
Okay, well, you know what? That's Kid Mike. I'm not going to certainly argue with him. He's a world champion for a reason here. But okay, so obviously coming toward the end of the show here, I want to ask you a couple things. What are your goals in wrestling 2024?
Win belts, get paid. No.
No, you should want to get paid. Pay yourself though. By the way, you're a promoter. Pay yourself.
I guess my goals are a little different this year than most years, because if you had asked me last year, the year before that, I would have said to wrestle as much as possible. This year, it's more to wrestle at places that I feel appreciated at, and by that I mean like a few years ago, I wrestled every single weekend and going to like different places, back and forth, and it was like, but how many of these places am I having fun? How many of these places actually like want to utilize me and don't want to throw me in a battle royal or something like that? So I think this year my goal is to wrestle at like 5 places max. And
well, that's the Jack Delta line, quality over quantity.
Yes, and that too, like, I've been doing indie wrestling since I was 18 years old, a senior in high school. I'm 25 now, and I kind of want to do other things at the moment too, other than just focus primarily on wrestling. Wrestling's still my heart, but I still, I want to experience things as much as.
The YouTube page too, though. The YouTube page is doing really well for you. You got to following with that.
And I want to do other things at this age that looking forward to. And I think by cutting a lot of those dates out, I can have the time, for one, to heal up, and for two, to experience life and not just constantly stressed out about like, am I going to get enough sleep for a show? Am I going to have enough gas in my car? Am I going to be close enough to the venue for the hotel room? I think this year is just going to be very chill. Like,
I think that's a good way to go about things, and I think that the best is yet to come for you. And I wanted to ask you, what did it mean to be ranked as high as you were a few times in Kings and Queens magazine? You were actually rated a lot higher than Mr. Castelli, by the way. Just want to point that out there. You were rated much higher than Mr. Castelli. Yes. So one feather under your cap, and he's going to come back, I'm sure, before this match, and I'm sure he's going to kill. He's going to probably want to maul me for saying that, but what did it mean to you to be rated as high as you were in the first half of that class multiple times? What did that mean to you?
It's cool. That's a lot of names on a list. One, to compare their wins, losses, styles, and stuff like that. The way the Kings and Queens used to set it up back in like 2018, 2019, it would just be like wrestler of the month, rising star, this, that. It wasn't like a big long list of names. So I think that was more prestigious then, because when I was managing, I got manager of the month like 4 times. I got rising star like I don't even know how many times. I got tag team of the month like 3-4 times, as different tag teams too. And if you look at the current tag team rankings, I'm like in the top 10 3 times. No, twice. Sorry. Panhandle Revival and Murder City. And I think they used to have the Militia there too. So it's like in the top 10 were like 3 or 4 of my teams.
Yeah.
And for me, this is going to sound really bad, it's just a ranking. I mean,
No, I mean to some people, listen. I asked Chase Wakefield the question, and he was kind of talking about like it was a big deal. We were talking about the wins and losses. Some people, it means a big deal. For example, I had a guy, Vito Fratelli, who's a friend of mine who wrestled Alexander Hammerstone when he was the MLW world champion. And a big bone of contention for him was that in the prior year, he didn't get ranked in the PWI 500. This year, really, because of a few things I said, he got ranked. So some people believe in the rankings.
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, so that's why I thought I would at least ask you the question because it was kind of interesting. At the very least, you were rated higher than Mr. Castelli. So just saying.
I definitely like. I don't hate on Kings and Queens for the way they do their ranking. I like the people who work there and
Yes,
own the
I've spoken
company.
to him a few times. Very nice guy.
Very, very, very nice guy. I just don't think wins and losses in wrestling matter per se. That's from the inside perspective. From the outside, I still don't think it does. I think it more matters. Like if you want to do ranking, I think you should do skills, like in different sets, like promo skills, interaction with the crowd. That's one of the biggest things for me. Whenever I see new wrestlers, so how are they going to interact with the crowd? How are they going to interact with the camera? You could go out there and you could win 50 matches, but if you're not selling to the crowd or the camera and you're not selling tickets, I mean, really?
Oh, mean nothing. Means absolutely
exactly.
zero.
So,
I'm glad you said that. Yep.
And I've had guys who are interested in working for like Amplified and will come up to me and said, "Oh, hey, I won 20 matches last year," and I'm just like, "Okay."
And how many people were there, and how many tickets did you conversely sell?
Right.
Did the show make a profit? Did the
Yeah.
show wind up going to a different venue? How many people follow the company on social media? Those are other things, to go on for sure. But let me ask you a slight detour real quick. I don't want to spend much time because I realize there's only so much time I have left with you. But how does your role change as somebody that's going out and promoting as a wrestler? Does that anything change for you at all?
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like there's a bigger chip on my shoulder. I feel like, I feel like I have to be completely at my best on my own show. I don't want to look like crap on my own show. I could do that on someone else's. No, I'm kidding. I feel like the pressure's on too. Plus, like the way we run our shows is we have like 5 main people who like really do stuff. So it's like when one's in the ring, the other's backstage leading what's going on. So that way it's not like, because I've been to shows where one guy's running the whole thing, and like say he works a match and he comes back and it's just all like, oh well, scattered. It's definitely can be like that, but it's a lot more prideful too, honestly, to be able to like wrestle for your own show. It feels great, actually.
Well, I'll tell you what, February the 24th, we're really excited about it here. And I'm going to make a couple of announcements here before we get to closing thoughts and ask you one other question. But you fight for a cure. Enterprise Wrestling, Amplified Wrestling. If you really want to go out there and support a great cause, you have a great opportunity to do that through a couple of different ways. If you want to get in touch with Van Hanson to support this cause, you can do that on Instagram at van.hanson, YouTube, van.hanson. Also support him in getting to over 1,000 plus subscribers. Help him join his movement. Facebook at Van Hanson. Also Twitch, Van_Hanson. Twitter, it's Van Hanson. Also, if you want to buy some merchandise, go out there and support this man, support what he's doing. And you can certainly follow Amplified Wrestling here at Amplified Wrestling. And I will say hello to somebody in a second who's going to be on the show Sunday. But I do want to say that, since this show is obviously for a great cause, and since this show is going to be taking place on the 24th of February, if you wanted, as a sign of my support and full endorsement of this particular show, because it's such for a great cause, as the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportzwire Radio, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters here, the Reverend Tom Bryce, before that, I will actually purchase a ticket personally, and you can give that ticket to somebody who would like to come to the show on my on my watch for free to go
Thank
out
you.
there and support this cause. So definitely let me know how I can do that in the coming days. I would like to do that on here, personally endorsed, because this is for a great cause, for a great reason. And plus, I get to see you wrestle Brandon Castelli, and somebody can tell me how the match was and see if they can give me a report. But no, seriously, all kidding aside, I would like to actually formally endorse the show for a great cause, fight for a cure. What I'd also like to do, if you're going to come on February the 20th with Kid Mike, I will actually make that day in recognition for the show in itself and the event, and we'll certainly let you guys talk as the Murder City Hit Squad. And I'll give you a proclamation, basically a certificate. We'll basically recognize it. So I'll, in a couple of weeks, I'll bring you on with Mike, and we'll certainly endorse the event. I'll give it a donation, and certainly, my support. I would certainly like to be able to do that and show my support here to you. So hopefully you'd like to come back for that. I also want to shout my buddy out, TBK, the Baltimore kid, who's made a nice little logo for me. So thank you for the logo. But definitely get out there. Bell time starts 6 o'clock. 7 o'clock is the first match. It's at 151 East Cherry Street in McConnellsburg, PA. Zip code 17233, 151 East Cherry Street. Amplified Wrestling's YouTube and Facebook page, especially Facebook page. Go check them out. Support this cause. This man's doing it for a great reason. And Jules, I'm not a billionaire, but thank you very much for the kind words. Chase Wakefield's the billionaire. I might be close to an heir, but thank you, guys. Thank you for the caps lock. And
Thank you.
Before I ask you one more question, anything you want to say about DBG? Because he does your metal videos there for you, Mr. DBG.
It's Metal Talk Monday. What's up, DVG? I'll put DVG over any day with just like how much like he's helped my channel with that.
He's a real YouTube sensation. He has like 8,000 subscribers. I lost count on YouTube.
Yes, DVG has given me a lot of great advice. He's hooked me up with great equipment, and he's done voiceover for me. I can't thank him enough. And you want another bombshell?
As long as it's not me saying anything stupid, sure, go ahead.
You can see DVG at Fight for a Cure February 24th.
Ooh, you know what? He's coming on Sunday. He's coming on Sunday night to take his place in history here in the Sportzwire Radio Hall of Fame. So I'm going to certainly ask him about that for sure. That's a great segue. So I'll see DVG Sunday night here. I guess I should ask, what, maybe since you're coming back here the 20th of February, and I see that, Kid Mike is here, and obviously with the Murder City Hit Squad, I was wondering maybe we should kind of make it really, really interesting. Obviously, I'm going to endorse your event. You're going to obviously give me some details, and I'll give you a donation, here later this week, obviously to support the cause. But what do you guys think about going into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame as the Murder City Hit Squad on February 20th?
Say what now?
Want me to repeat it?
No. I got you. I mean, man, that would be great. I mean, dude.
You think Kid Mike would accept, or you think he wouldn't accept? What do you think? You think he? I know you can't speak for him, but think
Kid Mike's a jerk, but I think he would accept it.
You think he would? You think minutes out of being a jerk for a second to put you guys into the Hall of Fame? You think he'd be all right with that? You think?
I definitely think so, dude. Man, you're making my night. Just thank you for your contribution and for the Hall of Fame spot. My court's going crazy. I'm shaking.
Don't shake for me. Don't shake for me here. We're on Sportswire. But no, obviously that's what we do. We always like to support those that are out there for a great reason, a great cause, and it would be my pleasure. And I certainly want to congratulate you on this event coming up. It's for a great cause, and I know we'll be talking a lot about it. I'm looking forward to, obviously, inducting you and also really talking about this cause further. We'll make 20th of February a little special. We'll make it a day on behalf of Amplified. We'll talk about the show. Maybe you'll have a few other matches announced by then. I would definitely like to do that, and certainly thank you, Kid Mike, for putting that in caps locks, and definitely looking forward to seeing what you do in DBW. You see it'll be a different you. We'll have to see. We'll see you back in Superstar in about a little over 2 weeks from now. We'll be looking forward to seeing you there with that. I think, yes, and thank you, Kid Mike. Yes, it'll definitely be an honor to have you on. I look forward to putting you guys on and, getting a chance to talk about the card a little further, talking further about you guys. But it's been an absolute honor. I could ask you more questions, but I got you on in a month from now, so we'll save some of that for the Hit Squad. But I want to give you now the opportunity to some closing thoughts, anything else you might want to plug, share, or say. And It's been an absolute honor, and definitely you're a lot better looking than me. You've got more followers, so if you want to take over my YouTube channel to give yourself more subscribers, I'll give that to you. Also, I'll throw that in there. Certainly if you want to have a further trade where I can get off and retire and pass the baton off, I am looking for somebody to retire off. Maybe you might be the guy. You have the following, but I'm only kidding. I'm kidding on that. I'm not retiring yet from Sportswire. Don't worry. I'm not doing that. But all kidding aside, I'd like to give you the floor. I'd like to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? The floor is absolutely yours.
Definitely thank you for your contribution and promotion of this show. Thank you for having me. This has been one of the funnest interviews I've ever done, honestly.
I was wondering about that. Like, have you done podcasts? Because people tell me all the time, I do podcasts all the time, and I don't want to, blow anybody up, but they come onto these different shows. Like Judgment did one, like with some guy in England, and like didn't know anything about him. I was like, we were speaking about it once off the air. I'm like, well, why did he do the interview with you? And Judgment was like, well, he said he was a wrestling fan. So I hope that this was not as bad as other ones you may have did or may not have did. I don't know.
I've only done like maybe 5, and while they've been fun, I think this was one of the most entertaining. I feel like you bring a lot to this show. Definitely, like even like watching some episodes where some guys are just sitting there like this. You're still like,
oh my god, I don't want to say it. I'm going to say I had a pro wrestler on this last week, and he's been on my show a lot. I don't want to say anything further because I'll get shot for it. I really like him, but it was not informative. It was like boring. It was just boring. It happens, unfortunately. Guys come on here and, I don't want to say they shit the bed, but there are guys that do shit the bed. It happens. What can you do? People have bad performances all the time. What can you do?
Yeah. But no, definitely thank you and for keeping the energy, and thank you for having me. It's been fun watching Sportswire. Now to be a part of it, it's been a blast. I didn't know how this was going to go, but I definitely had a blast.
I told you when I announced you, a little while ago, I said it would be a lively discussion. I mean, when have I not said anything on Sportswire? We're doing this for 5 years. I think if people can go back, when have I not said if I said something was going to happen, it didn't happen? I mean, to be honest, I've been doing this since I started on a Skype call. I started this with Skype. I went to SoundCloud. I went to, doing it on Zoom. I went to doing it through a British radio station. I took over the station. We're doing these live. We simulcast them. And when have I go back in my career, I have if I say something's going to be good, it's going to be good. And I told people, and I told you this was going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And it was.
That, and thank you for one, you put me over in like, you hyped me up so much in like 5 minutes and more than I've done in like my whole career.
Well, I'm going to put the fifth on that comment because you might have worked for some of those companies or still working for some of those companies aside from your own. And I'm going to have coverage with them soon. So I'm going to plead the fifth on that one. Because those companies like me. Those companies like me.
Yeah. Oh, whoops. And 2, thank you for actually like I feel like I did a podcast interview before, like you said with Judgment, where it was like it was more like dumb kind of questions that were supposed to be serious. Like if it's just dumb questions, I love answering dumb shit.
Yeah, I think Cynic did one, and it was like they were asking about like fantasy booking on SmackDown. I was speaking to him, off the air, and I'm like, dude, did they not watch you at all? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they didn't,
I definitely like thank you for like gathering information and asking me like, before we got on here, like throughout time, like, is there anything like this? And then you're like, is this right? Is this right? Like, thank you for being on top of everything too. And just being,
he's lying,
so fun
by
to
the
work
way.
with.
I knew nothing about the interview before. It's a joke. It was a joke.
No, but thank you for being so open and fun to work with. This has been a treat.
No, you added something that was really cool about you. You added something really to the table. I was so excited about. You had the video game background. You had the movie background.
Yes.
You had obviously the metal background, with all the bands that I, followed and liked. And I thought that was, a wrinkle there, and you certainly might be a little bit more metal than Brandon because, Brandon's obviously a Typo Negative fan. So you might have a little bit of an edge over Brandon also in the music category because, is shout out to Typo Negative, by the way. But I think some of the bands you like are a lot more heavier than Typo Negative. But I happen to like Typo Negative. Actually, they're a Brooklyn band. I'm from Brooklyn, so they were, sort of a legendary band. They're actually the first. Also, real quick, actually, a little trivia note going back to Nickelback. The first band in the history of Roadrunner Records to be a gold and platinum certified artist is Typo Negative. So Typo Negative, they're the first ever to be certified gold, first ever to be certified platinum. So if it wasn't for Typo Negative on Roadrunner Records, you wouldn't have had the success you had with Slipknot. You wouldn't have had the success that you had with Nickelback. You wouldn't have had the success with bands like Killswitch Engage. You wouldn't have had the success with bands like later on Shadows Fall. I think that wound up going to Roadrunner at some point. No, it was actually Korn went to Roadrunner. It was Dream Theater went to Roadrunner. Even Rush was on Roadrunner. So Roadrunner is not the Roadrunner that we know now, but really because of Typo Negative. Typo Negative and Slepatora. Slepatora was the next band to have had a gold record. Another band, by the way, I'd love to see you do a metal one with Slepatora. I know, don't say anything, but that's another band that actually I think it's a little bit of a raw deal because Derek Green, real quick, he did have some good albums with them. He really did. He did have good albums. I think he gets unfairly knocked because everybody looked at KSID and Roots with Calavera, but Soulfly was like, I don't want to get into it. Soulfly to me was like, but yeah, I don't know if you were a Soulfly fan, but good enough there. Yeah, that's how I think about them. But anything else you want to say before we sign off tonight? Okay, well, you know what? Follow you on those platforms. Buy a t-shirt of this, but most importantly, one more time, support a great cause. February the 24th, Fight for a Cure, Enterprise Wrestling, Amplified Wrestling. It's going to be Castelli versus Hanson. It's going to be a battle of, who has longer hair? No, it's going to be a battle of Amora and Rockhard versus V to the H. And we're going to talk about all of it here on Sportswire Radio for sure. On February the 20th, as we'll dedicate a day to Amplified Wrestling. And we'll induct the Murder City Hit Squad into our Hall of Fame. We'll have Kid Mike on with you. We'll talk about all of it here. And so go to Amplified Wrestling also on Facebook. And it's been an absolute honor. I'm looking forward to seeing you next month. Congratulations and all the success. We'll definitely touch base about how I can go support you in that form to take care of what we need to take care of to support this great cause. And looking forward to next month. And you definitely were a V to the H, and you definitely showed you're a YouTube sensation, but also a guy that'll certainly provide some power and punch for sure on February the 24th. And thank you so much, champ.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. V to the H, Van Hanson here. He spoke about a number of different things. He revealed he is the owner of Amplified Wrestling, where he's going to be wrestling February the 24th, Fight for a Cure against Brandon Castelli, a mauler who rocks hard. He'll also be back in the ring on February the 10th for Superstar Wrestling, also DBW. He spoke a lot about some names you heard of called Cyrus, Jackson Sabre. Also hear more details to come on all of his channels about more of the great things he's doing with the videos, the Metal Mondays, also charity fundraisers, other things he's doing. Check him out. Follow him. He's awesome. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, the man behind Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters here. If you're on sportswireradio.org, you're going back to your regularly scheduled programming. If you're on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter, I'll be back on tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time with Necro Daddy, a.k.a. Chris Levitt. Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, I'll be here with Ronnie Thatcher, the Gentleman Thug of CCW. CCW month continues here on Sportswire Radio. Thursday, to be inducted into our Hall of Fame, James Barris, the owner of Cutlery Championship Wrestling, same time. And at 3 p.m. Wednesday, the Tribal Cheese Logan to talk about the Fighter Strike 3 event upcoming there Saturday. But until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, on the number one level radio station that is Sportswire Radio. And until then, thank you, everybody. We'll see everybody here on February the 20th with Mr. V to the H, Van Hanson. And until then, I'll see everybody. Have a great day. Stay safe. Be